Okay. Again, welcome to our first lecture on research methodology, our first lecture on research strategies and philosophies. This is an introduction to research, introduction to research strategies and research philosophies, right? So in our first slide, we show you the quote, "Welcome to the world of research." This course is a course to help you become a much more equipped scholar, equipped with the knowledge of carrying out research. And this first lecture will be a lecture on research strategies, yeah, and philosophies. Based on our observation, we notice a very important gap among postgraduate students as well as among researchers and even scholars. Yeah, and the gap is this: the gap is a lot of researchers, let alone postgraduates, and even some lecturers, right? Even PhD graduates, right? They enter the world of research or even graduated without understanding the philosophy underlying the research, without understanding the types of research strategies, the paradigms of research. So this particular lecture will address that particular agenda, and that is the agenda, that is the issue of upgrading and empowering students of research, empowering scholars to understand the various research strategies and their accompanying or their underlying philosophies. So I welcome you to this lecture. There's the picture of Mount Jurai, by the way. Mount Jurai is not too far away from USM. It's about 1 hour drive. So you can go to Mount Jurai and you will see a beautiful scene, right? It is also one of the early civilization in Malaysia. You can go and visit there when you come to USM. Would really encourage you to visit this beautiful hill called Gunung Jerai, or in English, Mount Jerai. I also welcome you to this this course, which is a course that is focused very much on establishing foundational knowledge in various aspects of research, various aspects of research methodology. And the first one will be, this particular lecture will be on research strategies and philosophies. The next slide, please. Yeah. Okay. Just now, for those of you who have not registered yet, this is the way you could register. You could scan the QR code, or use you can type in the password, and you could get registered. You can record your attendance through this QR code. Yeah. When we take a break, we will come back to this QR code, so you will still have time to register, just in case you have not registered yet. Right? So let's move to the next one, as we have taken about an hour. Okay. So research. My first slide is a slide asking the question, why research? Why do we want to conduct research? There are many possible answers to that, right? Many possible answers to why we want to pursue research. I'm not talking about why we want to pursue PhD and all that. We're talking about research, the essence of research. Well, research, we want to discover knowledge. We want to develop knowledge. We want to test or test new knowledge, right? But why? The truth, to discover the truth, to develop the truth, to understand the truth. But I ask you again, is the truth out there? No, the truth is out there, right? Like the X-Files. You can find out the truth, the objective truth, so-called objective truth out there. Or is it in here, in the minds of the people, in the emotions of the people, or in the experiences of the people? Or is it up there with God, maybe? Yeah. Or are there many truths? right? Different groups, different communities, different countries have different set of truths. Or can we know the truth? Can we as human beings, can we as academics, can we as postgraduates understand the truth? Now we will address all these issues. Right? Up there, here, in here, out there, many truths. We will address all these issues in this particular lecture. The next one, please. Oh, by the way, this is a picture of Gunung Bromo, Mount Bromo. Mount Bromo is a beautiful mountain in Indonesia, which is a part of the Nusantara. Nusantara is this big region of archipelago, the Malay archipelago, which includes Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Philippines. And this Mount Bromo is a beautiful mount. If you like to travel to this part of the world, if you like to go to Indonesia, you should go and visit Mount Bromo and see the sunrise. You will go there at night, or late night rather, and in a few hours you will reach the top, and you will have time to refresh, and you can wait until the sun rises. It's just a beautiful, it's just majestic. And people say if you have not been to Mount Bromo, you have not seen the sunrise in Mount Bromo, you have not been to Indonesia. So Mount Bromo is just one of these beautiful sites. It's a place, sacred place of the Hindus, right? It's also historic. It's also anthropological, sociological, historical, right? The next one, please. The next, how do research strategies differ, right? So we'll be talking about a few research strategies, right? Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four. But how do they differ? Well, they differ in 6 different ways. Number one, there's the ontological, epistemological assumptions are different, number one. There are similarities. Ontological assumption is assumption about social reality. So some research strategy would perceive the world, look at social reality, and see a very orderly world. Like that we can explain this order, right? How the world works. That's ontology. What makes social reality? What are the components of social reality? What makes a social entity a social entity? What makes a family a family? What makes a chair a chair? What makes a university a university? Those are ontological assumptions. So different research strategies will have different ontological assumptions, right? Epistemological assumption. Epistemological assumption is assumption about how do you want to know what we want to know. So it's very relevant to research because research is at the core of research, the crux of the research, the essence of research is about answering research questions. And research questions is about getting to the findings, right? So epistemology is about knowing what you want to know. So epistemological assumption is assumption about what you can know and how you can know it. Right? So some people say you can only know through observation. So some research strategies say observation is the king. If you do not have observation, if that particular phenomena, that particular research cannot be observed, it's not a scientific research. If the data is not observable, it's not scientific data. So that is an epistemological assumption, right? Some research says, well, in order to understand, some say, want to understand the chair, you observe whether there's chair, how many parts to the chair, right? That's observation. The other side, they say, well, you want to understand the chair is made by the carpenter or somebody who manufactured the chair. So go and ask the creator of the chair, the carpenter of the chair. The carpenter of the chair will be able to tell you. So this is different way of knowing, different way to know what you want to know, right? By observation, through other people who actually created this reality. So these are epistemological assumptions. So ontology is about what makes something, what constitutes a particular entity, what makes social reality a social reality, what makes a family, what makes an economy, what makes a business, what makes a business operation, what is not a business operation. Our epistemological assumption is about how do we get the data, get the information, get the knowledge that we want. So this, you'll see under research strategies, we will present you a few research strategies. Different research strategy will have different ontological and epistemological assumptions. There's quite a mouthful, right? There's two terms, right? But these are very important concepts in the philosophy of social research. Number two, starting points. There will be in the research strategy that we'll be discussing today. You see that different research strategy will start. They will have different entry to data, entry of research. Some say, well, we start with theory. Some say, no, we don't start with theory, we start with data. Some say, no, we do not start with theory, we do not start with data. We start with the social actors. Let the social actors define what is relevant. Let the social actors think about what theories that we should be thinking about. Some say, well, before you do that, you've got to understand there are three levels and different spheres of reality. And if you do not have this view of the totality of reality, that there are different parts of reality, right? What we see is not really all there is to know. There's something that is more fundamental than what we see. This is different starting points, right? So we will find out the research strategy and the different ways of getting into it. Number three, the steps and logic. You will find that different research strategy will have different sequence, different procedures in carrying out the research. Some start with theory and then hypothesis, and then some say propositions, and then collecting data, and then testing the data. Some say, well, no, we start with collecting data, and say we process the data, analyze the data, and see patterns, and then we build generalization. And some say, well, no, the logic is different. Some let's see with some phenomena, and then we go into the people who are in the phenomena, and then start understanding the experiences from the people. So the different steps based on different logic, right? We'll go more in depth with that. Number four, the use of concepts and theory. You'll find in research strategies that some would use certain concepts, some will use some other concepts and theory, right? So some will talk about variables, right? Independent, dependent variables, how one affects the other. Some will talk about realities. Some will talk about spheres of realities. So getting the concepts, getting the terms right, understanding the terms are very relevant to understanding the research strategy. Right? Number five, styles of explanation and understanding. In different research strategies, the styles of explanation are also different. Right? You'll find that one of the research strategy, which is named Abductive Research Strategy, the style of explanation is about looking at the themes, looking at the everyday language, everyday typifications, everyday words that are being used by people, and see how these different people bring together different ideas, and from the different ideas we can understand the problem, we can understand the phenomena, right? And this is part of the research, the differences in research strategies. And number six, status of their products. When we say products here, we mean findings and the quality or the status of the findings, right? So some research strategies will say we are interested in producing generalizations, right? That we can know that this particular theory or generalization is applicable in Sichuan, is in Wuhan, in Shanghai, in Kathmandu, in Bangalore, in Swahili, in Nigeria, in Botswana, in Chorok Tokun, or in Bagan Lepas. We want to see these laws can be applied everywhere, right? Like the law of supply and demand, right? It's like the law of gravity. When you drop something, it will drop. It will come down. That's a law, right? You want to see the status of the product that can be applied everywhere. Some say, well, the status of the product, the generalizability of the product is not as important as understanding the essence of the product itself, essence of the findings itself. So some is not about generalization, some is about testing theories and be able to reject false theories, right? So some say, well, whatever products, findings that we have is only supported by evidence, but it's not proven as true. So there is different ways of looking at the of the status of the products, right? Okay, that's number 4. That's slide number 4. Let's go to slide number 5. Slide number 5. These are the four research strategies that we'll be discussing today. Hopefully we can complete on time because we have lagged about 1 hour, right? There are 4 research strategies, right, that we'll be discussing today. The first one is the inductive research strategy. So that's on the left-hand corner, if you're looking at the slide, right? The left-hand corner. Inductive research strategy, the underlying philosophy. Remember, we are discussing research strategy, and we're also discussing research philosophy. So the research strategy is inductive research strategy. The underlying philosophy is positivism, right? I think many of you, at least some of you have heard the term positivism. So the pioneers, the people who popularized this perspective is Bacon's and Mill's. It's not one word, it's 2 different words. They're observation based, so they consider observations as very important. Almost the primacy of observation is the whole foundation of research, right? So that's inductive research strategy. Then we have deductive research strategy. Deductive research strategy deduce from top to bottom. We'll start with theory and then end with data and testing the data. The deductive research strategy is the strategy. The philosophy is critical rationalism. That's the second one. Yeah, critical rationalism is being popularized by Karl Popper. And this research strategy, this philosophy, upholds logic-centeredness. So it is based on logic to arrive at findings, to arrive at what they want to research on. So you might start with theory, hypothesis, testing a hypothesis, and rejecting hypothesis, and whatever remaining is supported, corroborated, but not proven as true. That's a second research strategy. The third research strategy is retroductive research strategy. Retroductive research strategy, which is the third one. The philosophy underlying it is scientific realism. Scientific realism is a philosophy that upholds the thinking that there are many layers, many spheres, many domains of reality. So reality is not just at the empirical level, reality also exists at many different levels. And the task of the researcher, the task of the social scientist, the task of the scholar is to unearth, to reveal, to bring out, to show, to demonstrate these different realities and how these different realities work together. But most important of all, to show what causes the phenomena, what is the generative mechanism underlying the phenomena, which means the mechanism that produces the phenomena. And that is retroductive research strategy, right? Underlying that research strategy is scientific realism. Number 4, abductive research. Abductive research strategy. From the word abduct, kidnap, culik is in bahasa. The philosophy is interpretivism. This research strategy, this abductive research strategy, consists of many different traditions, right? Basically, this tradition the interpretivism as a philosophy subscribes to the thinking that if we want to understand social reality, then we must understand social reality from the point of view, from the perspective of the social actors. If the social actors bring us to a new ocean of understanding, then we go to that ocean of understanding and explore and sail and dive and go deep and discover the concepts, the emotions, the thoughts, the meanings underlying this experience that they have, right? So our job as scholars, as researchers, as scientists, right, social scientists, is to tell the story, convey the theory, bring up that stock of knowledge that is hidden or that is implicit or explicit, right, of the social actors. So this is abductive research, right? To abduct, to bring out, to capture the thoughts, the meanings from the social actors and to convey in a scientific manner. Right? The next slide. Oh, by the way, this one. This one is Mount Kinabalu. It is the highest peak in Malaysia, located in Sabah. Right? This is cold up there. Mount Bromo is also cold, below 0 Celsius, right? So this is just another experience you could have if you are a mountain climber, right? If you like to climb mountains, right? If not, if you're strong, if you're young age, go ahead. This is the time to explore, to find and to seek out new lives and new civilization, to boldly go where no one's gone before. Okay. So I would encourage you, if you have the desire, interest, and to see the different. Well, there's a slide before this. Can you go back to the slide, please? This slide is the slide of the ancient indigenous martial arts of Nusantara. Nusantara are communities in southern Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, Philippines, and some other parts of Southeast Asia. It is an ancient art of self-defense. And by the way, I noted down that Bruce Lee once fought with a Silat master named Datuk Mio Abdul Rahman. You can find out who won in this fight. Bruce Lee, the Yok Yong Chun Chuan. So this is a bit of general knowledge since we are in the world of humanities and social sciences and arts, liberal arts, management, so we should start understanding different worlds and understand our society. Right? Okay, can we go to the QR code to show that? All right, those of you who have just registered, right? This is the QR code. You can scan this code in order to register, or type the password. You see the password F9PGQ0. F9PGQ0, and that is the barcode. So the QR code. So you can scan this and register. All right. I see. Especially when I'm conducting the class, I won't be able to address all your comments and issues and questions. Yeah. So I'll go ahead. What else should you use? Okay. Right. A postgraduate scholar next to me is helping me. His name is Raja. He's from Malang, Indonesia. So he's typing a QR scanner, etc. Right. Okay. All right. Or you can just type the password, right? Okay. Thank you very much, Archie. That's good. Cool. All right. Let's move on to the next slide. Which is the first research strategy. The first research strategy is inductive research strategy, and its supporting philosophy is positivism. Right? A lot of O in this research strategy, right? A lot. Just like the donut O, remember the O in this research strategy, because this O is of extreme importance. Right? So this is the first one, the first research strategy, inductive research strategy. Remember the O. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, inductive research strategy. Remember, I was talking about the ontological assumption and the epistemological assumption. Okay. Now, the inductive research strategy, the ontological assumption, let me go through all 5 and then I will zoom in and talk about it more specifically when there is a need to emphasize. Right? Number 1, remember ontology, the ontological assumption is assumption about how social reality works, how we can pursue research in the social reality, the ontological assumptions. Right? Number 1, ordered universe made up of discrete and observable events. So inductive research strategy assumption is about the first, I'll repeat because there's a problem with the internet connection just now. We are using the keyboard, right? Yeah, okay. The first ontological assumption is that the world is orderly, ordered universe made up of discrete and observable events. So inductive research strategy, which is upheld by positivism as a philosophy, right, believes in an orderly world, and that this orderly world can be observed through observable events. Right? Number 1. Number 2, the order represented by generalizations about relationships between concepts. So we can understand this world through the concepts, through the relationships of the concepts. Remember, these concepts represent observable events. Right? Number 3, and this is probably one, if not the most important, right? Primacy of observation. Another O there. Another, the O, primacy of observation. So for this research strategy, inductive research strategy, observation is king. Like you cannot observe, it is not a scientific fact. It is not an scientific data. It can be a theological data, research, but it's not a scientific research, right? Okay, so that's the third one. Number 4, a view of social reality as being complex relations between events. So this is similar to the second one, right? And causes, number 5, causes of human behaviors are external to the individual. The idea, the principle for externality. So we can understand human beings through the external observation. So observations become very, very crucial, in fact, the foundation of knowledge. That is the ontological assumption. Epistemological assumption. Now, let us understand this a bit, right, before we talk about epistemological assumption. The story of inductive research strategy, or the story of positivism, is that in one particular period, Europe was undergoing a process of transformation. In this process of transformation, Europe, or the West, or Western civilization, or by the way, the word Western civilization is an interesting concept, because once Mahatma Gandhi was asked, what do you think of Western civilization? Mahatma Gandhi answered, that would be a good idea. Meaning there is no Western civilization yet, right? I don't know. It's a real joke, but it's a true story. Right? But so the Western civilization undergone a period where knowledge was held, was controlled, was monopolized by theologians, by clergy, by the clergy class, by religious people, people of the church, people of the religion, right? So if you want to understand social world, the heavens and the earth, the sea and the earth and all that, right? You must go through the theologians, must go through the religious people, right? So before we judge positivism being a bad theory, before we judge positivism being a bad philosophy, we got to understand this group of scholars want to liberate knowledge, want to free up knowledge, want to give freedom to knowledge, such that they can pursue research, such that they can pursue scientific research. So they remove themselves from the system of knowledge that is being controlled, that's been shackled by the theologians, by the religious caste, by the clergies, right? So science was born, right? So science is based on observation. Science is not based on dreams and revelations from angels and Zeus and Dionysian and Aries and all that, right? There's no Greek gods in science, so to say, right? So there is no religious boundaries that's holding back science from developing. So positivism is a positive way to get the knowledge liberated from the shackles, from the controls, from the monopoly of the theologians. This is the background, right? So epistemological assumption, back to this slide, right? Epistemological assumption. Knowledge produced through the use of human senses. Again, knowledge is only produced, scientific knowledge is only produced through the use of human senses. So this is where they become, they occupy, they define the authority of their knowledge, that scientific knowledge is based on human senses. If you cannot observe it, you cannot touch it, you cannot see it, you cannot taste it, you cannot smell it, is not scientific data. Right? If it's not scientific data, it is something else. You want to understand about dreams, about ghosts, and paranormal activities, you can go to someplace else. But you want to understand observable events, you can come to science. Right? So positivism has subscribed from the sciences into the social sciences, into the liberal arts, adopted the same thinking. Right? So the social science, the liberal arts, adopted positivism from the art sciences in order to empower themselves to become as authoritative, as credible as the sciences. Right? So concepts of generalizations describe reality. That's number two. That's how they advance knowledge, right? Is through the use of concepts and generalizations. Number three, and again, this is very, very, very important. Another O, objectivity. What is that? Objective, observable procedures. So the procedures, the ways of collecting data must be objective, must not be biased, must not be tainted, must not be polluted, might not be colored by the views of ideologies, views of how things should work. So a researcher, a scholar, right, should go in with a clean slate, not polluted, clean, like a white piece of paper, a white piece of cloth, and go and take pictures and collect data like the CSI people, you know, they collect the dust and the broken glasses and the blood spatter and the wind and all that, right? Collect data. We let the data bring us to where we should go, right? So it must be objective, must not be biased. Should not be having a theory and then find out and what support this theory. Not. We start the data. Number four, recorded regularities become theoretical statements about patterns in reality. So epistemologically speaking, they advance knowledge by recording regularities. They see, the brown color donut tastes like chocolates. I eat 2, I eat 3 brown color donuts, it tastes like chocolates. I eat 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100 brown color donuts, they taste like chocolates. So brown color donuts are chocolate donuts. You see the regularity in the theorizing of donuts, right? So you see regular occurrences repeated many times. Brown is a concept, chocolate is a concept. You know, brown donut and chocolate is connected, high correlation, right? That's a theoretical statement about donuts in JCO. JCO, you can eat JCO donuts in USM, right? If you come to USM, You can go to Queens Bay. It's a nice mall next to the sea. You can walk many miles. You can cycle and enjoy the sea. And there's a very long mall there. And there's donuts, Jeko Donuts. It is from Indonesia. It tastes great. It tastes good, and you can order it through. And you have Grab of them. You have Uber or whatever. You can order online too. Anyway, that's the inductive research strategy, right? The ontological assumption and epistemological assumptions. The next, we're gonna go faster, man. All right, inductive research strategy. Next one, inductive research strategy and positivism. So objective knowledge can only be derived from observations and collection of data, right? So as I emphasized last time, so objective, a big O, must be from observation. Number two, presuppositionless observation, which means you cannot go in with some presupposition, with some bias, with some expectation. You must go in clean. Your observation must be clean, clear, unbiased. Right. Number three, development of knowledge is through direct experience with what is observable only. This is to emphasize what I have said before. It is the use of human senses. It is the use of observation that to develop knowledge. Next, social reality is viewed as consisting of a complex of causal relations between concepts. So social reality, we can understand social reality when we collect all these concepts. There's chocolate, there's brown donut, and there's this thing like little nut, right? There's was a pink color donut, right? And pink is associated with strawberry, brown is associated with chocolate, and white is associated with almond. So eventually we can develop a relationship between concept, the color and the taste, and eventually we have a theory of donuts, right? The causes of human behaviors are regarded as being external to the individual. See, all this is observation, all this is external. We do not have to go into the mind to know that the people are probably thinking about this, probably thinking about, no, there's no probable thinking and all. We were talking about observation, right? So it is external human behaviors. So ultimately, the last point there, the task of social scientists is to develop generalizations based on observations, right? To develop generalization, at least some conclusions based on observation. So you want to have enough observation, repeated observation, to know certain reality can be generalized, right? And hopefully that generalization can be generalized to more than one place, right? So the next one, please. The next one. Oh, sorry. Okay. So inductive research strategy, there are 6 essences. Objective knowledge, we talk about this. Data collection, so they emphasize on data collection. After data collection, you do data analysis, like you analyze the concepts, the relations between concepts, and you see patterns emerging from the data, and from the patterns, you can have generalizations. Eventually, it is the aspiration, it is a hope, the dream of inductive research is to come up with laws, right? Laws of reality, just like the laws of supply and demand, just like the law of gravity. So eventually, we can possibly understand the universe and possibly also understand God's thoughts, right? So understand that these scholars who were actually contesting with the theologians, with the religious folks, with the clergy, right, were not necessarily not religious. They are also religious people, right, at that time, right? And they also want to know God's way of programming this world, God's way of arranging this world, God's rules, God's laws of the universe. And they want to capture it scientifically and then convey as laws of and generalizations, right? So that is inductive research strategy. And I think there's a final slide. 4 key general steps. So you start with observation, data collection, and then after you collect the data, you analyze the data, and then from the analysis you have generalizations and conclusion, and hopefully you can lift it up to laws. Maybe not. Usually at the PhD level, if you're carrying out inductive research strategy, generalizations will be sufficient. All right. We'll take a 1 minute break before we continue. Right? I'm just going to QR code again. Oh, stop sharing. You might want to mute first, yeah? Okay.
I share the QR code.
Okay. Now we want to go and start the new streaming or what? Atau teruskan aja.